The moment he allegedly said she wasn't royal enough, the entire table went silent. Not because people were shocked he said it, but because of who said it. A prince. Not a journalist. Not a random critic online. An actual royal-born prince from one of Europe's old aristocratic circles. And what fascinates me is that the story leaking right now isn't really about an insult. It's about fear. Fear that Leonor, Princess of Asturias, is changing what modern royalty is supposed to look like. Because if we're being honest, Leonor doesn't behave like the classic royal blueprint at all anymore. And I think that's exactly the problem for certain people. You can see it in the way older royal circles talk about her. They respect her discipline, sure. They admire the military training, the controlled image, the public composure. But there's this underlying tension that keeps showing up in whispers and insider commentary. She's too modern. She's too media aware. She feels more like a leader than a royal. And honestly, that last one is the most revealing. Because what does royal enough even mean in 2026? Does it mean distant, emotionless, born into endless ceremony? Or does it mean surviving in an internet era where every facial expression becomes a meme within 10 minutes? That's the real battle happening around Leonor right now. And if you're new to Leonor's story, subscribe. I post every day. Because this isn't just celebrity gossip anymore. I genuinely think we're watching a generational fight over what monarchy itself should become. Now here's where this story gets really interesting. According to the version circulating inside Spanish and European royal watch circles this week, the prince in question reportedly made the comment during a private gathering connected to a diplomatic social event. Nothing officially public, no microphones, no cameras, just elite conversation behind closed doors. But apparently, Leonor had been discussing military service, institutional reform, and public expectations, serious topics. And somewhere during the exchange, the prince allegedly smirked and implied that she cared too much about public approval to be truly royal. That line stayed in my head. Because I actually think it exposes the exact difference between old monarchy and modern monarchy. Older royals believed mystery created power. Leonor seems to believe visibility creates survival. Huge difference. And honestly, I think she's right. Look at the world now. People don't blindly worship institutions anymore. Every institution has to justify itself daily online. Politicians do. Celebrities do. Even creators like Mr. Beast constantly reinvent themselves to stay culturally relevant. Royal families are not exempt anymore. That's why I laugh a little when people criticize Leonor for being too strategic. Of course she's strategic. She almost has to be. The monarchy she's inheriting doesn't exist in the same world that previous kings and queens inherited. And this is where I'm going to say something controversial. I think some aristocratic circles are uncomfortable because Leonor's popularity isn't built on ancient royal mystique. It's built on effort. That changes everything. Military training, public discipline, controlled messaging, prepared speeches, visible responsibility. She's building credibility almost like a modern executive rather than a fairy tale princess. And ironically, that may make her stronger than traditional royals in the long run. But there's also a hidden cost nobody talks about. The more Leonor becomes effective, the less room she has to be human. And that pressure is brutal. I noticed something recently while watching footage of her during an official appearance. Everybody else around her looked relaxed for brief moments. Leonor didn't. She always seems aware of the cameras. Aware of posture. Aware of symbolism. It's like she's carrying the future of the institution on her shoulders every second. That's exhausting. And maybe that's why comments like, "not royal enough," hit differently. Because imagine sacrificing normal young adulthood to prepare for a role most people couldn't survive, only for someone born into old aristocracy to basically say you still don't fit the image. That would frustrate anybody. Now let me bridge this into something bigger, because I don't think this story is actually about one prince. I think it's about identity panic inside European royalty itself. Look at Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales in Britain. Their image strategy still leans heavily on tradition mixed carefully with modern accessibility. Garden parties, family moments, controlled warmth. Leonor's image feels colder, sharper, almost corporate in its precision. And I don't mean that as an insult. I actually think Spain's monarchy learned from previous instability that emotional messiness can become dangerous fast. So now they're building Leonor almost like a constitutional brand. Reliable, disciplined, untouchable. The question is whether that creates admiration or emotional distance. Because viewers notice authenticity now more than ever. That's why creators who fake personality eventually collapse online. Audiences can smell performance. And royal families face the same problem. If people feel they're watching pure PR instead of a real person, interest dies. Which brings me back to that alleged, not royal enough, comment. What if the prince didn't mean she lacked bloodline prestige? What if he meant she feels too modern, too calculated, too aware of media psychology? Because honestly, she does. And maybe she has no choice. The internet changed monarchy forever. Years ago, royal power depended on distance. Today, survival depends on relevance. Huge difference. And this is where my personal analysis shifts a little. I actually think Leonor understands something older royals missed for too long. The public no longer respects royalty automatically. Respect has to be earned repeatedly. That's why she leans into military imagery so hard. That's why discipline is constantly emphasized. That's why emotional control matters so much. She's trying to look necessary, not decorative, and that's incredibly smart politically. But emotionally, I wonder what that costs her privately. Seriously, think about it. How many people around her can speak honestly without worrying about status, headlines, or palace consequences? How many friendships are fully genuine? How many romantic interests are interested in her instead of the symbol? Those questions probably haunt modern royals constantly. And this is why I think audiences connect with Leonor more than some analysts realize. Beneath all the protocol, people recognize pressure when they see it. Especially younger viewers. Because even outside royalty, a lot of people today feel trapped by expectations, branding, public perception, and performance culture. Leonor just experiences it at an extreme level. Now here's another angle nobody's talking about. Why did this story leak now? That timing matters. I always pay attention to timing because royal narratives are rarely random. Stories surface when they benefit somebody. And right now, stories portraying Leonor as underestimated or challenged actually strengthen her image. Audiences love resilience narratives. They love seeing a young future queen prove doubters wrong. So even if this happened privately, the public version of the story serves a purpose. It reinforces the idea that Leonor is modernizing royalty while facing resistance from old aristocratic thinking. That's powerful branding. And honestly, it's effective. Because whether people support monarchy or not, they understand generational conflict. Old systems versus new systems. Tradition versus adaptation. We see that battle everywhere now. Politics, media, business, even YouTube culture itself. That's why this story spread so fast online. It doesn't feel like ancient royal gossip. It feels current. A young woman trying to redefine power while older elites question whether she belongs. That's relatable storytelling. And maybe that's why I keep coming back to that phrase, not royal enough. Because sometimes when institutions say someone isn't traditional enough, what they really mean is, we're afraid the old rules are dying. And honestly, maybe they are. Leonor represents a monarchy built for cameras, algorithms, public scrutiny, and constant visibility. A monarchy that understands attention spans, optics, and narrative warfare. Older royal circles may find that uncomfortable. But uncomfortable doesn't mean ineffective. In fact, it may be exactly why Leonor could survive where others struggle. Still, there's one final thing I can't stop thinking about. If Leonor spends her entire life proving she's royal enough to institutions, media, critics, and aristocrats, when does she get to simply be herself? That's the hidden tension underneath all of this. And maybe that's the real tragedy of modern royalty. Not the pressure to rule. The pressure to perform perfectly forever. So when that prince allegedly questioned her legitimacy as a modern royal, I actually think he accidentally revealed something much bigger. The monarchy's future may no longer belong to the most traditional royal. It may belong to the one most capable of surviving the modern world. And right now, that might be Leonor more than anyone else.